I'm a feminist, but last week, for the first time since I was a kid, there was this big dinner party, and I helped my mum clean up, right? And I'd never worn one since I was maybe 10. I put on an apron, and I thought, this feels right.
I'm a feminist, but when I got this email from a man this week, "Hi, I met Megan at Paradisus Resort in Cancun, and I didn't take her contact details. She told me she was a fan of the Guilty Feminist podcast, and I'd like to send her some music. Do you know how I can get in touch with her? My name is Alex, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and Russian. Thank you, Alexander." My first thought was, dude, if you could close the deal in Cancun, with the waves lapping and the guitars playing and the margaritas flowing, you're never going to close it at all. And my second thought was, if she'd said she was a Game of Thrones fan, would you have written an email starting, "Dear George R.R. Martin"?
I feel like, if anything, that's like she was using her fandom of the Guilty Feminist to be like, bro, back off. I'm a feminist, but this week I spent 3 hours on 3 different days researching YouTube videos and essays and like academic research online to find out whether or not wearing makeup would further me in my career. Turns out probably, but also turns out I don't give a shit.
I'm a feminist, but I started thinking about Alexander with his Russian accent, living in Brooklyn, meeting Megan on the beach in Cancun, and about how maybe they had this magical rom-com connection, and maybe he accidentally spilled his margarita on her and she laughed, and they ended up walking on the beach together for some miles, talking in the moonlight about how similar they were and at the same time how very, very different. And how they both lived in Brooklyn, and how amazing it was that they'd met each other in Cancun all this way away, and how he had music that he wanted to share with her and that she wanted to hear it, but that night he was too awkward to kiss her, and she was like, "Oh, did I read that wrongly?" And then she went back to her hotel room and he went back to his hotel room, and then she spent the next 2 days with her friend on the beach going, "I really wish I could see him again," and she was looking for him the whole time, and then eventually she remembered the name of his hotel and she went there and she just left a note for him at the front desk and then told him what flight she was catching, hoping that he would run to the airport and stop it. But then the front desk staff who was meant to give it to him said, "Yeah, I know Alexander, he's in room 104, and she was just about to take it up to him, and then she got a phone call saying that she had to go home because her child was sick, so she ran home, and then she realised that it was in the pocket of, and the next day she came back to give it to him, but he'd already gone, and at that point he'd missed her at the airport, and they'd both been at the airport at exactly the same time, but he'd been out of gate 6 and she'd been out of gate 5, and they'd just gone, and if he'd only just turned back or she'd turned back, they would have seen each other, and now they're living in Brooklyn together, meant to be together. But sadly, they will never meet. And that this email isn't creepy at all, but it's the most romantic thing that you or I have ever heard.
Who here has seen Mean Girls? Right. I'm a feminist, but when a woman wrongs me, I will print out your picture from Facebook and put it in my burn book. I'm not sorry. Like, I'm not even a bit sorry.
I hope if I was ever in the burn book, I'm out of it now.
Yeah.
It's not reassuring, is it? It's not relaxing. I'm a feminist, but hey, Megan, if you're out there and you're listening and you were in Cancun at the Paradisus Resort and now you're in Brooklyn and you're listening, this one comes to you from Alexander. This is the music he wanted you to hear. I wrote to him and asked for it. I told him I'd play it on the show. So if you want to get in touch with him, email guiltyfeminist@gmail.com and I'll connect you. And if this is creepy, I'm sorry. I'm a feminist, but... London Podcast Festival. The Spontaneity Shop presents The Guilty Feminist with Deborah Frances-White and guest co-host Bisha K Ali and very special guests Sarah Bradland, Stephanie Martin and Imogen Roberts talking about being seen. Welcome to the London Podcast Festival. Are you ready for The Guilty Feminist? Then please welcome to the stage Maria Mercedes Lindeskov.
You say that it's a bad word, but we both know it's the worst word.
Maria Mercedes Lindeskov. You're from the Faroe Islands, but you now live in Denmark.
Yeah.
So she's come all the way from Denmark today to sing this song for you. And I think it's a really beautiful feminist anthem. How old are you, Maria?
22.
22.
Yes.
Wow. I wish I was writing beautiful things like that when I was 22, but sadly I was in a cult. So, Maria, where can we buy this song?
Hopefully soon, but you can follow me on Facebook and stay tuned there.
What do we follow?
It's called Marbles Lost Music. Marbles Lost is my artist name.
Marbles Lost.
Yes.
And can we get that on SoundCloud, that song?
It is on SoundCloud.
It's
yes.
on SoundCloud. So
Marbles Lost Music also.
Wonderful,
Everywhere.
wonderful. Please do that. Big round of applause, Maria Mercedes Lindeskov. This is The Guilty Feminist, the podcast in which we explore our noble goals as 21st century feminists and the hypocrisies and insecurities which undermine them. So, Bisha, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Have you had more of a guilty week or a feminist week?
I've been on a seesaw
That's how I live my life.
of feminism from one day to the next, where one day I'm like, I'm up, I'm the super queen of feminism and, smash them. And the next day I'm brought low by man. So that's been my week.
Audience, just shout guilty if you've had more of a guilty week and feminist if you've had more of a feminist week. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I heard more guilties, but right at the end I heard inist. It was like a guiltiest. I feel like I'm a combination. When they say you've got combination skin? You're sort of dry, but then oily around the T-zones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am basically, if dry is guilty, and then I'm feminist around the T-zones.
I was going to say that I have very, very dry skin.
Oh.
It's just a sharing moment. And therefore we should say, for my benefit, that being dry is feminist bit, so that I could be full feminist face. But sure, whatever you said is good. Yeah.
No. I feel like we've nailed this together.
Please start clapping, cheering, and welcome to the stage your wonderful host, Deborah Frances-White.
So one of the things I do, apart from being a woman, is be a screenwriter. And I'm going to tell you a story now about being a screenwriter and how people think that screenwriters are men when you're in the industry. And they're like, oh, and you're a lady person as well. And you go, no, there's loads of us, you're just not interested in reading the script. So it's really interesting if you're in a position where you do break through, how sometimes they talk to you about women as if they're not in the room. They don't see you as a woman anymore. It's like you hand your woman card in at the door, and then it's like, well, this is industry card now, this is behind the scenes. And they honestly talk about women as if they're other. I'll give you an example. Once I was at the Cannes Film Festival. Has anyone been to Cannes? It's the weirdest place. It's the greatest metaphor for the film industry ever. Everybody's got a yacht permanently docked that goes nowhere. That's where they hold the parties. They hire a yacht. They never intend to take it out. It does not do its job as a boat. It's just there so they can drink champagne and talk about themselves. It's the whole film industry in one go. And I honestly was talking to a man at the Cannes Film Festival who said, I mean, they brought me a Russian prostitute and she wasn't even as good looking as my wife. And I thought, what's the point? True story. And I was like, you do understand that I'm a woman here, but my friend who I was with, she said to me, look around you, Deborah. On this yacht, we are not the beauties. She was like, this is like the French court where you have to bring something. We are the wits. And I looked around, she said, look at anyone else here who's female. And look, they're bringing something else. And it's true, it was full of men. And the women who they brought onto the boat said nothing. They were generally South American women, and they were, stunningly beautiful, like oil paintings from a previous age. Like women you just think, you gaspingly beautiful women. But they weren't really wearing clothes, they were wearing bits of silk that draped across their bodies and never fell off, but always looked like they were going to. A lot of people think sexy clothes are revealing, but they're not. Sexy clothes are unstable. Anything you've already revealed, they just look once and go, okay, I've seen the tits, and they move on. But what the trick is to wear a bit of fabric that looks like it's going to fall off your tits, but never does, and then your tits are mesmerising. Because at any point, I might see a tit, but they can't look away if your clothes look unstable. That's just a tip. That's nothing to do with this set, really. But I suppose it is. I suppose it's being seen in a way, isn't it? I suppose it's being seen. If you want to be permanently looked at by someone with an erection, then to wear something unstable. Do you know what I mean? Just like might come off the shoulder. And you say, so this is the world. Now, the first time I ever went into this world, I sold a screenplay with a couple of friends years ago, and I had to go over to LA at short notice, and then was sent around to meetings where they told us, now pitch your other ideas. And we didn't have any other ideas. We were like, we're going on this one for 2 years. And they said, well, just come up with some other ideas. So we were sort of coming up with ideas in car parks, and everywhere you went, they wanted something different. So we'd come up with this idea for this place, which we were told was the most art house production company in the whole of Hollywood. So we thought, oh, art house, art house. They'll be fancy, they'll be clever, they'll be nuanced. But what I'd left out of that sentence was in Hollywood. The most art house place in Hollywood, as opposed to the most art house place in any other context. So in we went, and we pitched this thing that was actually, it's sort of more like a sitcom plot than anything. 2 heterosexual couples agree to meet in a cottage in upstate New York for New Year's Eve. Now, the man of this couple and the woman from this couple, who do not know each other and have never met, arrive early. Then there's a big snowstorm. So the woman from this couple and the man from this couple get snowed in at O'Hare Airport, and they have to share a hotel room. Now, the ones in the hotel room had a fling in college, but the others don't know. The others are total strangers. So basically, it's meant to be a reunion between these two. So now, you know my husband really, really, really well, but I don't know you at all, and I'm snowed into a log cabin with you. Basically, that was the setup. So we pitched this to this young guy at this art house company, and he went, oh, I think my boss would really like this. I just think you girls are great, and would you be interested in coming in and pitching this to my boss? And we were like, sure. So in we went. And you know the guy in the orange advert, don't let a mobile phone ruin your movie, the big Hollywood producer? It was that guy. It was that actual guy. If smoking was allowed indoors in California, he would have had a cigar in both hands. This guy, Simon, he takes us in and he says, David, these girls, they've just sold a script to a big studio and they've got a pitch I'd like you to hear. I'm sorry to interrupt your meeting. And the guy who's having a meeting with another guy, he looks up, David, and he goes, you sold a script? And we went, yeah. And he went, who's your agent? And we went, oh, we don't have an agent, we have a manager. He went, what? What do you got a manager for? You're writers, you don't need a manager? How much is this manager taking from you? And we went, 15%? I don't know, 15%. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You fire the manager, you get yourself an agent, you tell him to take 5%, then you tell him to go fuck himself. This guy's your new agent. This is Abe from CAA. Abe is your new agent. He's the best in the business. He just kicked shit out of me on this table. We went 5 rounds on this table. He kicked shit out of me for his client. And then Abe goes, oh, but he kicked shit out of me too. We kicked shit out of each other an equal amount of shit. You know, like, oh, no. It was that they did everything but get their penises out on the table and measure them. So I just went, okay, Abe, apparently you're our new agent. I'd like you to take 5% and go fuck yourself. And Dave went, so you're funny. How long's your pitch? And we went, 5 minutes. Make it 3. So at this point, I am actually looking around for a candid camera thinking, has our manager set us up with a friend? This cannot be really happening. And I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating. I am not. So we sat down and we started the pitch. So there's this couple and they end up in this, upstate New York and they're snowed in and the other couple and blah, blah, blah. And he looked at us and he went, could it be on the beach in Brazil? There's beautiful weather down there. And we went, well, no, because that's the only thing we've got is that they're snowed in to a log cabin. That is the full pitch, really. No. And he went, I got a lot of money down there in Brazil. There's beautiful weather down there in Brazil. You tell me a love story set on the beach in Brazil, I won't just develop that movie, I'll make that movie. And we went, so this couple are on this beach in Brazil. And there's beautiful weather there, and it's like they're on honeymoon together. The other couple are snowed in O'Hare and can't get there, but we don't see much of them, so it's fine. They're having this incredibly romantic time, and they're there, but their partners aren't there. They don't really know each other. And he went, and what are they talking about? And we went, flirtation and the nature of monogamy. And he went, monogamy? I can't sell monogamy. Sex is what I can sell. You tell me a sexual awakening story set on the beach of Brazil, I won't just develop that movie, I'll make that movie. And I want it to be beautiful, like magical realism. You know, I've wanted it, but he didn't know any women writers. And if you ask men to write this shit, do you know what they write? Porn. That's why you can't have men write it. Porn. And I don't want it to be porn, I want it to be magical realism like Chocolat with Judi Dench. You know where the wind blows things in and shit? Magical. I want it to be like that. Can you write that? We went, yeah, we can write that. We can write that. And he went, I want there to be a lot of women in it. I mean, a lot. This sexual awakening is not just a one-woman deal. I want there to be a lot of women in it, and there's beautiful women down there in Brazil. And he looked at the other guys and went, right? And they went, right. And then he went, but they're not as beautiful as Colombian women. The Colombian women are the most beautiful women in the world. And the guys just started endorsing that and going, yeah, that's true. That is true, there they are. They're the most beautiful women in the world. And then he looked at us and he went, don't worry, we'll ship them up. No one will know the difference. I am a feminist, but I said, okay. It was 11 years ago, okay? Can you please stop judging me? But here's the thing, he was talking to us like we weren't women. Like he was talking to us like because we were writers, we were boys somehow, and this is clearly how some men talk about women when they are in rooms together and women are not present. And it was just like we weren't there. So we went away and we came up with this story. Now, all you need to know about this story, it's about a man who's about to go on honeymoon with his wife to this beautiful beach in Brazil. She goes out in the car to get something and she has a terrible accident and she's paralyzed and they end up never being able to go on the honeymoon and he nurses her for 10 years. And they can't have a sexual relationship. He's totally devoted to her. They have this incredible romantic relationship and after 10 years, she dies. And her last wish is for him to take the urn of ashes and sprinkle them where they would have had this honeymoon. So he arrives on this beach wanting to scatter the ashes, but also, of course, not wanting to, and just books in for this honeymoon that he should have had on his own. Now, all the men in this fishing village have just gone out fishing, leaving only the women there. And he looks a lot like Daniel Craig because he's played by Daniel Craig. And the women realise that he is like their local Saint Sebastian who ran a hospice and looked after a lot of dying women. And they also realise what his story is, and they realise that he hasn't had this sexual relationship he should have had for 10 years. So these women of various ages decide, based on the magical and unknown ringing of the bell on the Saint Sebastian clock tower, just rings whenever it likes, no one ever knows when it's going to happen, that they are going to date him and help him have this sexual awakening that he should have had throughout his marriage. It's their idea. What, are you going to slut shame them? They want to do this. So we pitch this on the phone, because we're back here, and David listens and he goes, you guys did a great job. You did a great job. And then he said, 2 things though. 1, no woman in this movie can be under 21. We said, why not? He said, because you don't want to watch your daughter fucking. It's disgusting. What? And no woman can be over 29. We went, why not? And he said, because you don't want to watch a woman over 30 fucking. It's disgusting. This is the most art house production company in the whole of Hollywood. And it was at that point we said, I don't think we want to do this. And we put the phone down. in the good feminist version of this story. Thank you very much. Our theme this week is being seen. How seen do you feel, Bisha?
Right now, very. Because,
Just in general in life.
I feel seen, but I think it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes you don't want to be seen, or you want to be seen in a certain way, and being seen isn't enough. Being seen for just what you look like isn't enough. It's being seen as a person is what I really want.
And the farther you are from being a white straight man, the less you're seen as a person and the more you're seen as your most cosmetic identifiers.
That you mostly didn't get to pick. And then not only do you not get to pick the markers that you're born with, because you're other, you don't get to pick all the stereotypes attached to them.
Right.
So you don't even get to pick the narrative. And that, I think, is a double-edged sword of being seen.
And when you conform to the stereotypes, you feel a bit guilty because you think, oh, I'm leaning in. But stereotypes are sometimes stereotypes for a reason. So sometimes I'm a stereotypical woman, in inverted commas, because what people have done is they've spotted a trend amongst female people and they've then projected that onto every single woman they meet. So if they hit one that is correct in my case, like being emotional, being into fashion,
right.
I then go, yeah, I'm a bit like that, and I feel bad for it.
Right. But then if you flip that onto me, like, I'm not into fashion.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you probably feel, well, I'm not conforming to that stereotype, and I'm not endorsing it.
So I'm not being seen.
Oh, that's interesting.
See what I'm saying? This is my umbrella. This analogy is going nowhere. This is my umbrella. And this is what I think women can stand on this umbrella, and then I'll see them as women. But then I'm outside like, oh, I don't like fashion, I like T-shirts.
T-shirts can be fashion.
Yeah, I just realised that, and I was like, oh, I'm shooting myself in the foot with this analogy. It's going nowhere.
No,
Save
like,
me.
like
Right.
some T-shirts are very fashionable, like sort of vintage T-shirts have become, And I understand, Bisha, that when you say T-shirts, you don't mean distressed vintage ones, do you?
No, I mean clothes that cover my flesh. Yeah. That's it.
You mean relaxed contemporary T-shirts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean the thing that's in the cupboard that's not just rancid that you can wear. What I'm saying is I'm not into fashion, but the point is, when you conform to whatever that stereotype is, you don't conform to all of them either. There's more to you than that stereotype.
Of course, I'm multi-dimensional, Bisha. But what I'm saying is, if I conform to a stereotype, which means that I am seen as a woman, for example, I dress up. So last night, I hosted the British Screenwriters Awards, which was exciting.
I'm also a screenwriter, just no big deal, but I wasn't there. Yeah, it's fine. Like, it's fine. I mean, she was hosting or whatever, it's fine, but I'm just saying I wasn't there. Please continue with the very important point you were making. Yeah.
No. I do see now, looking back, that it would have been polite to invite you.
I wouldn't have been rare to have been seen there.
The red carpet, though, it wasn't a long red carpet. It was a square of red carpet.
Yeah.
You know, if you went into a carpet shop and you asked for a sample so that you could try it in your front room, it was like that. But of course, it looks like in the photos there was a long red carpet. So you basically had to go and stand on the red square of carpet with the lights on, and then try and stand next to someone famous, and then they would take your picture. Basically, we used it for a lot of pictures on our own phones and then put them on Instagram. Instagram makes almost everything look glamorous, though, right?
Yeah.
You could be at home with your cat in one of your T-shirts with the right lighting and angles. Everyone could want to be where you are.
I do a good selfie. It's a good point, yeah.
Yeah. But that's a really interesting way that now we get seen and we orchestrate how we're seen. And what was interesting is there was a photo of me on my own on this red carpet, and on Facebook it got like 3 likes, and on Instagram it got hundreds. And I was like, why did Instagram like this and Facebook didn't like it? And I did get into my head about it. I did. I went, that's weird. Why are Instagram so into this picture, but Facebook, maybe my Facebook friends went, don't put a picture of yourself posing on a red carpet, you wanker. That's what Instagram's for. I've liked it over there. I'll be asked if I'm liking it over here. I think that's what happened. But it's true that the men there, a lot of the men weren't dressed up at all.
Yeah, I saw one photo. Because not that I was like stalking the whole album or whatever, but like, I went deep in the photos, and Deborah was dressed very glamorously, and there was another woman dressed very glamorously, and there was a gentleman dressed how I'm dressed today. And I thought, could I get away with that and feel comfortable? So
Yeah.
in that setting,
Well,
where
he
you were in this,
runs
like,
the event, and so he was just there sort of like, look, this is my
Power
working
play.
clothes. At the last minute, he put on a purple velvet blazer
Yeah.
over the top of a hoodie
Yeah.
and just went, fuck it, listen, I've made this come together, and he did it. But it is true that a woman who did that would be commented on. So there was a thing a few years ago where Stephen Fry was hosting, and the woman who'd won for costume design basically
I
came
remember
dressed,
this, yeah.
you know, in a hoodie.
Yeah.
And he said something like, only she would turn up like a bag lady. And it caused a lot of problems on Twitter for him. He left Twitter for good, by which I mean for 6 hours. Hello, Guilty Feminist. This is Deborah Frances-White from The Guilty Feminist, briefly interrupting your podcast to say a huge thank you to everybody who donated to the Dahlia Project this week. Over 137,000 women and girls in England and Wales have undergone female genital mutilation. Layla Hussein, who's been a wonderful guest on the podcast 4 times, herself is a victim of FGM. And she is running the Dahlia Project, which is the only counselling service in Europe for victims of FGM. It not only helps those women through the psychological and physical effects of FGM, but it also helps break the cycle of abuse in families and communities. I am just crying to say that this week we have raised so much money. The total is now £36,756.89, with gift aid that takes it up to £43,000. Now, the Dahlia Project needs £50,000 to keep going. So if you haven't donated and you would like to, we would so appreciate it. Thank you so much to everyone who did. For anyone who hasn't and would like to, £180, which I know is so much for some people, but if you can afford it and you want to know where your money's going, £180 pays for one woman to attend a 12-week group session. And that's a full course of counselling. £50 pays for childcare for one woman to attend counselling. I know that many people don't have anything like that to give. If you get a new Jane Austen £10 note, that would be a wonderful gift for the Dahlia Foundation. It's what Jane would have wanted. But in any currency, wherever you are in the world, any amount would be so much appreciated. Just go to guiltyfeminist.com/Dahlia Project. Dahlia is spelt DAHLIA. Dahlia Project. Thank you so much. Layla has just been beside herself. She said that she's never, ever before had an army of people with her. She's always been really out there on her own with a small group, and she just feels so supported. So thank you very much. The final way you can help the Dahlia Project is by downloading our Guilty Feminist Negotiation Special. This is a brilliant episode in which Athena Kablenu, the wonderful comedian, and I interview Suzanne Williams, who is a professional hostage negotiator. This is the only ever Guilty Feminist episode that you can buy. It costs £5, and for the month of October, we will donate all of the proceeds to the Dahlia Project. So go to guiltyfeminist.com and download the negotiation special. I am coming to Australia and New Zealand. There are still tickets for the 15th of October Guilty Feminist event at the Festival of Questions at the Wheeler Centre. It's like a normal Guilty Feminist episode with a few more whistles and bells. And the title is The Handmaid's Tale in 2017, What the Hell? Go to wheelercentre.com and buy tickets for the 15th of October. It's only $20. If you're in Auckland or anywhere in New Zealand and you fancy coming to Auckland, we will be at the Town Hall, and there are still tickets for the 29th of October. I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible at a live event soon. Put your hands together and make general hooing noises for Bisha K Ali.
Hello, friends. We're talking about being seen, and as I was saying to Deborah, that being seen, I think, is a double-edged sword, right? It's kind of like on a Sunday afternoon when you've had like a night out, or even just you stay up late watching Netflix. You know there's cake in the fridge, but also you're in a really warm duvet, and you're in bed, and you're like, the opportunity cost of leaving this bed to get the cake and then return to the bed is coldness. It's a vast coldness, a tundra, if you will. If I leave this warm space, to get the thing I want. The cake is being seen, whatever, go with it. There's a solution, is that you take your blanket with you, right? You turn your duvet into a gown. What I like about this is it feels like you've all done that. And that you are my people. It's a double-edged sword. So you get the cake, you come back to bed, then you're eating cake in bed, and then you've got crumbs on your bed. And like some people aren't fine with that. I'm fine with it because, you know, whatever, it's hygiene. We have mouths for a reason. It's a double-edged sword. Look, for me, when I talk about being seen, I don't just talk about being seen as a person in the world, right? Because being seen as a person in the world, I'm perceived by whatever, like, years and years of training has gone into your head, whether it's rom-coms or whatever the media representation is. And I want to be seen in those spaces. I want to be seen on television. I don't mean me, Bisha. I mean people who look like me. So then those stories that you have in your head are different. And I want those pictures of me to be more than what they are now. So I want representation, but I don't want representation the way we have it now. I don't want my brothers to be seen as terrorists. I don't want my sisters to be seen as victims. But I also want us to be up there. It's important, because that's all you think when you see these people. And I was thinking about, for me, what my first version of being seen, seeing someone like me on the television, was when I was growing up and I watched the movie Bend It Like Beckham. Any fans in? Yeah, it's a great movie. And it kind of made me realize that, hey, maybe a career in the arts is something that I'm allowed to do. So in Bend It Like Beckham, there's a young Asian girl from Hounslow. I myself am a Hounslow girl, so I was very excited. And her parents want her to study or to find a man or some combination of them. But she's like, I want to play football. Right? I was like, wow, huge dream. And she played for the Hounslow Harriers. Hounslow Harriers used to play in the park across the street from my house. So I used to practice at Lambton Park often. And a lot of the film was shot around Lambton Park and around Hounslow East where my cousin lived. And it was all just really exciting. Like, look, that's part of us. That's part of our life. It's in a movie and it's big. Keira fucking Knightley was in that movie, you know? I mean, the other one went on to be a doctor in ER. Thank you for breaking stereotype. But it was exciting. Someone could do something that wasn't a stereotype. I could be seen. I can be seen in a space that's not made for me, that's not supposed to be mine, right? So at first I was like, I'll try football. And then I realized, like, I can't walk in lines good. And physical exercise sucks. Like, it straight up sucks. I mean, if you like it, good for you. But for me, you remember the bit about the cake and the duvet, right? Yeah, that's my safe space. I wanted to be seen. And then as I got older, there was another show that came on television. It's called Goodness Gracious Me. Yeah, you remember that show? And again, it was like Asians on television, being funny, and funny not just for other Asian people, but for white people too. Everyone was joining in on that. Whatever you think of that show, it did something that no other show in the UK has done before, or has done since, in my opinion, right? It was the paramount for me. And my family used to sit around. I had nothing to connect to my parents with, right? They were a different generation, they were a different culture entirely, and we'd argue constantly about what my life should look like. But we could sit around and we could watch Goodness Gracious Me, and be like, yeah, we all struggle with the same shit. And it's funny. So I became a stand-up comedian to really fulfill their dreams. At the time. We all want to be seen. We all want to be seen. But at the same time, I don't want to be seen. Sometimes when I wake up and think about leaving the house, I wake up and think about going to do a gig, I think, I'm going to be the only Asian person on this bill. And I can't be fucked. I'm tired, man. I'm just tired. I'm constantly tired of being the only Asian woman on the bill. Some people are like, well, that's more competition for you if there are more Asian women. No. The more Asian women are doing this, the more mediocre and coasting we get to do. Just fill it up. Just please, more Asian women, come and do stand-up so I don't have to try so fucking hard. Please. I'm begging you. And that's the thing. Sometimes you just can't be bothered. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be in a public space. I don't want to have to go up and be the Asian person and tell my experience and tell people, hey, this sucks and this is hard. Do something about it. Because they're not hearing do something about it. They're exotifying me, and I'm an interesting tale for them to tell. And it's tiring, man. I don't want to be seen that way. But at the same time, like, I love telling jokes. I love telling stories. For me, storytelling is the thing, right? And being seen for me in storytelling is when you get to be more than just one facet of that multidimensional person we were talking about earlier. You get to be a whole person because you get to tell a narrative and you get to say, I'm on this journey and you can relate to this journey because of X. There's something in your life that's happened to you that connects to me and has nothing to do with my skin color, has nothing to do with my gender, has something to do with our humanity. So I want to be seen, but on my terms and my terms only. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
today are variously responsible for the new play Joy, about family, friendship, control and freedom, performed by a company of 7 featuring 3 actors with learning disabilities. To talk about all that and more, please welcome producer Sarah Bradnam, writer Stephanie Martin and actor Imogen Roberts. Hello, so can you just all introduce yourselves?
I'm Stephanie Martin, I wrote Joy.
I'm Imogen Roberts, and I'm playing Joy.
And I'm Sarah Bradnam, and I'm producing the show.
Who would like to tell us what this show is about?
Joy is a play about finding a voice. It's a play about... What do we say on the tube, Amy? We said it's a play about taking a stand. It's a play about writing new stories, because we got together as a group and we realised that the same stories were being told over and over again. And you don't see people sometimes in films and in TV, in theatre, so we thought, let's write a new story. And the story we're writing is called, and performing is called Joy. And it's become sort of inspired by Imi, who's playing our leading actress. So it's sort of interweaving real life and our imagined life, isn't it?
It's set in Victorian times and also now?
Yes. So we've got 2 stories. We've got a story in 2017 and a story 1870, which was a year when learning disabilities were treated by a sort of revolutionary doctor who decided to really change the way that people viewed the treatment of people with learning disabilities and how that could be a bit more humane, and actually is still really not happening today, a lot of what he said. So we're examining that as well as what's happening right now in 2017.
Imi, bringing in this play, does that make you feel more seen?
Yeah.
Do you often not feel seen in real life?
Well, it's kind of collided with my world quite a lot, apparently. I think, for me, from my reality and Joy's reality, it's kind of like something sort of in common with.
Now, and you're the writer, Steph. Did you base Joy on Imi?
Well, when Imi and I met, there was lots of coincidences, weren't there? When we started speaking about the story and the character. And what did we say every time we talked about it? You went, that's me, didn't you?
Yeah.
So it's sort of become a really lovely collaboration between the imagined character and a lot about Imi and what's happening in your life, what's important to you, the sort of life that you want, and what's important for you as a person. So they're sort of, Joy and Imogen, in my mind, are sort of one and the same, aren't they, actually?
Yep.
Which is really special.
And Sarah, it's a love story.
Yes, it is. We wanted to make sure that we were representing people with learning disabilities in the light of romance and sex and things that you wouldn't necessarily always think of or always see, because I think there is a tendency to other people who we see as different from us in whatever way that is. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to centre a narrative on people who have learning disabilities, but also just be like, but everyone, if they are a sexual person, they have sex, and it's to do with relationships and the controlling desire of a parent, and not trusting maybe a system where people do sometimes take advantage of other people, and how love can overcome that, but also just a fight for your own independence.
Mm-hmm. And have you found that a lot of the audience have been responding to that and saying, I feel seen, thank you for doing this? And you feel that there's a connection to what... It's an individual story that Imi, you put together and kind of worked on together and tells a lot about you personally. And I wonder if people are coming up to you and saying, thank you for doing this, because I can see something of myself in it, just like you saw something of yourself in the story too.
I think it's an important story for us to tell, because I think making it together has made us realise how we're kept very separate from each other. And if you don't meet certain types of people, you make assumptions about their life. So it's about... I think the more we make this story, we realise that we are all the same, or we're all completely different. That we all have the same experiences. We all want to do the same things. We all want to get out there and work and have fun and fall in love and have sex and, get married. Joy does everything. And I think the more we make it, the more we realise that actually we're kept separately so much in our society. And everybody's the same.
Well, I like to call it kind of, she's more really spiritual and she's very, very unique.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Being unique, yeah.
Yeah.
And now this show's still in development, and you need Kickstarter money at the moment, don't
We
you?
would like some money, yes.
Yeah. Because where's it going to be on eventually when it's all fancy?
Well, we're performing it quite soon. We've got a run in the studio space at Theatre Royal Stratford East, which is brilliant. If anybody knows it as a theatre, they do loads about news stories and diversity and representation. So we're really excited, and we're performing. We're starting rehearsals in a couple of weeks.
The 2nd of October.
She's
Very
ready.
good.
She's ready to go. So it's really soon. So yeah, we would like some money, please.
We're opening on the 24th of October, and we're running until the 4th of November. It's not a particularly long run, but at the moment we've got a Kickstarter campaign, which you will be able to find if you go on Kickstarter and you search for Joy by Stephanie Martin. I think there are other projects called Joy as well, but we've only got until the
Don't give
9th.
to those.
No, don't give to anyone else.
Don't accidentally give your money to another Joy, which I'm sure is great, but isn't the right Joy.
But it's not this Joy.
I mean, anything called Joy and Kickstarter is probably nice, but give to them as well, but definitely give to this one.
Definitely give to us. We've got until the 9th of October to reach our target. And a lot of this is because we have gone down the traditional avenues of trying to get funding. So, applying to various funding bodies across the board for months, and no one's interested. And we hope that it's because we're a very, very new company and maybe they want us to prove ourselves before they're willing to give us any financial support.
You hope it's not because you're women and you have 3 people in the cast with learning disabilities.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes. But we don't know. But at the same time, it means that we are dependent now on our own money and hopefully the very generous giving of other people. So if everyone in this room gave just, maybe £5, maybe £10, that would help us so much, and to share our projects and the work that we're doing, because the Clamour Theatre Company, which is who we are, we're not a sort of a disability-centred theatre company at all, but we are about bringing voices from the margins and sharing voices that wouldn't normally, and perspectives that wouldn't normally get dealt with. So we're really kind of at the beginning of this journey, but Steph and I met years ago, and we're just like, we want to work together because we enjoy working with each other. And it's a female-led company, and we want to do great things, but we can't do it with the very limited funds we currently have, so all help is appreciated.
But I think if you do this production and it's a big hit, then it will be much easier. So we just need to bankroll you for the first one, and then you're sorted, and then you'll be away. And I'm sure that Imi will have this big starring role, and then basically what I'm saying to you, Imi, is it's all on you. Once it starts, get out there, shine like a star, and then everyone will go, oh, wow, this is amazing, and just throw money at you, and television roles and fame.
I'm hoping that, Rosie's been thrown at me.
Yeah. Okay, we can do that. So if we all go to opening night, bring a rose to throw at Imi. I mean, warn her, because it might feel like she's under attack. And
You never know.
yeah, but if you are a female-led theatre company that is taking people from the margins and putting them into the centre space,
Yes.
it's a really hard sell at first, because I think people are going, well, will lots of people want to see this? And will lots of people want to look? And I think that's the thing, is actually... It's really easy to look away from things we're not used to looking at, all of us. Like, let's just be absolutely honest about it. We think, oh, God, but I don't know how to talk to that person. What if I say the wrong thing? Why don't I just avoid talking to that person? And I think we all know that. So the more that we can make plays like this and companies like Clamour and actresses like Imi on the centre stage, the more that will be normal, and then we won't feel like that.
And I think there's also an element, I don't know how you all feel about it, and I think it's a cultural thing, but we live in I'm going to get political. We live in a capitalist society. That's the world we live in right now, right? And I think that we feel very uncomfortable about thinking of giving money in a certain place as being like a feminist act. But in cases like this, it absolutely is. By doing that, you're voting with your money. You're saying, here is money to put you in a centre stage, because money is a barrier that holds us all back from different things and being centre stage in the world we live in. So if you need to, think of it as a feminist challenge to pay £10 to this organisation so they can put a marginalised voice on stage in the middle of everybody else, because that is an act of feminism. That is an act of supporting the people who need it. So I just wanted to make that case.
Hear, hear.
Let's do questions from the audience. Has anyone got a question in the audience?
I'm Fiona. I was just when thinking about being seen, and Deborah, when you were saying earlier about Facebook and Instagram, I find Instagram, even though I've got it and I still like going on it, I find it hugely demoralising. And obviously, what we all do is compare the highlight reels of everyone else's life with our life back at home. And I was wondering if you had any advice or ideas on how to be seen and see others and appreciate others, but not necessarily become demoralised at the same time, because I struggle with that.
I don't know, I just think I never post pictures of myself watching Say Yes to the Dress in my bathrobe. I just don't, I've never once gone, But I did put quite a lot of pictures of me hosting an award ceremony up last night. So when you look at those, I think what you need to do is go, and then she went home and spent 3 days in her bathrobe eating toast off her chest as she lay. Like, I can't even bother to sit up to eat toast. I mean, I think that's what I'm saying.
I'm going to do that tonight.
I mean, I don't know. I think from working with Imi and people that Imi is in groups with, one thing I find really interesting is that it's about making your own rules and making your own club. And I think somebody like Imi is very good at, like, because she's not been allowed in the club because society's horrible, she's almost like made her own rules. And I think that's really inspiring when I see the way that you bop about town. You just do your own thing. She almost can't be bothered to compare herself to anyone else because she's too busy focusing on being her best self. So I don't know if that...
Do you bop around town, Imi?
Yeah.
You a bopper?
This is like the first time I've been speechless.
She's been accused of bopping and she's not denied it, so I'm going to say she's bopped around town. How do you not compare yourself to other people, Bisha?
I think there's an element of, because I do it all the time, but there's also those clubs I'm never going to be allowed into, and I mean that metaphorically and, like, literally, there are comedy clubs I will never be allowed into. I think it's a matter of, and this is how I frame it, of where I get my validation from and what kinds of validation. Because if I'm getting my validation from how I appear on social media, then in some ways I'm like, some days I'm like, I'm nailing this. And other days I think, oh my goodness, everybody in my life, they're smashing their careers, they have, like, amazing love lives. Like, how is your husband that? Shut up. I don't understand. That's not a real thing. Your husband's not real. It's a fiction of your imagination. But the point is I think it's bringing it back down to, okay, is this actually where I'm getting my validation from? If I put down my phone for this day, I switch off my phone for a day, I have been without Wi-Fi and data for the past week. Oh my goodness. You put it away and you think, okay, so where's my validation coming from? Where am I getting the social approval that used to be when you go out with your mates? That's where we would have all the kind of game playing of who's doing better or who's enjoying their life more. But now it's in your pocket constantly. Like, it's an impossible ask. So I think one thing, maybe going on like a phone, like put it, like lock it in the bottom of the sea, or...
I took Twitter and Facebook off my phone, but what I found is I just kept logging back in, and then it was taking so long. I was longer on them because you have to do it all manually. So last night I just put them back on. I'm embarrassed to say. But I suppose my answer to that question would be this. When I was young, my mother made me feel really seen. So I have a memory of being with my mother and her saying something like, "my little girl." I felt totally owned by her, which was really important because I'm an adopted child. But then when I went to school, I realised I wasn't always going to be seen, that the popular girls generally had blonde hair and I didn't have blonde hair, or the popular girls did this and I didn't do that. And then when I became a Jehovah's Witness in my teenage years, my sexual awakening kept sort of hitting the snooze button. And I felt so invisible. When I first started working, I honestly felt so invisible, genuinely. Like, I could sort of eat a cream cake on a bus or put makeup on the bus and not feel self-conscious at all, because I swear to you, I felt invisible. I talked about it to my friends at the time. I was like, I have this thing where I think I'm invisible, and sometimes I'm very surprised if someone talks to me in public, because I think, how can you see me? It was like, honestly, like I was a fictitious character. And it was to do with not having a sexual awakening. No boy ever kissed me, no boy ever looked at me, or girl. Like, I was just so unseen. And I used to do things slightly like I'd dance in a public place just to check people could see me. My other Jehovah's Witness friends hated it because they were really cool. Cool is a relative measure. And you must always remember that, especially when you're on Instagram. So when I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, I started doing improv, which is something that I'd done secretly when I was a Jehovah's Witness. But when I first started doing it, I felt bondside, I felt behind, I felt years behind, like everyone else was better than me. And when I was on stage, when I first started doing comedy improv, I would ball my hands up like this, like in a fist, because I was so stressed. And I was so bad at it because I wanted to be good at it. And I knew I had a sort of natural talent for it, but I couldn't access it. And I hated being seen because I'd go out onto the stage and I think I was awful and I would hate being seen. And so I went from being invisible to making myself central and hating it. And it took a long time. And do you know how I did it? I kept showing up. I kept putting myself on stage. I kept letting people look at me until it was normal. And now, on stage for me is the same as off stage. It doesn't feel any different, unless there's like, I don't know, a television person in or something. But even now, I just sort of think, fuck you, I've got a good podcast. I don't care. You can't make me or break me.
It doesn't count for me, sorry, just I need career, please.
No, I don't, but I just sort of think, like me or don't like me. I'm just happy being seen now, and that's because I've practiced it. And so why I want Imi and the other people in her cast to have lots of goes at being seen. That's how you start to enjoy being seen. And honestly, that is the task of feminism. We have to like being seen. We have to love it. We have to get central. We have to say, yeah, I'll be on that panel. Yeah, have you seen my mate? She'd also like to be seen. We have to start making ourselves central. And the only way you can do it, if you don't like it, or you feel invisible, or you hate being looked at, just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it until it becomes normal, until you love being looked at. Because I think people look at me and they go, oh yeah, but it's all right for you, you're confident, you've got a part, oh yeah, but you're a stand-up, oh, but you've got this ability, or you're talented, or whatever. No. I just kept showing up. I love it now, I'm good at it now. I got good at it by showing up. Keep making yourself central. So where do we go for the Kickstarter for Joy?
Okay, so it's very much present on the Clamour Twitter page, so that's at Clamour_theatre. It's also on mine, I'm at Sarah Bradnam. But also if you go onto Kickstarter and you search for Joy by Stephanie Martin, you will find it.
Bisha, have you got anything to plug?
Yeah, I do. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm so excited because I rarely do. I am doing a comedy show once a month, last Thursday of the month at the Camden Comedy Club, which is just over there. It's called Bisha K Ali Presents Comedians She Loves, because I like a just tight, concise title. Tickets for that are just super cheap, and yes, you should all come to that. The first one is the September 28th. You can get the tickets. I'm going to have a pinned tweet as soon as I leave this. I'm going to do that, where you can buy the tickets from.
You're at Bisha K Ali.
At Bisha K Ali. Yes,
okay, great.
That is the thing I want to plug. Thank you very much. To keep track of everything we're up to, you can follow GuiltFemPod on Twitter or the Guilty Feminist on Instagram. There's also a Facebook page you can like and a mailing list you can sign up to. And if you like what you hear, please go to what we're now supposed to call Apple Podcasts and rate, review and subscribe. It helps other people to discover us.
Awesome. And could you please listen to Global Pillage at globalpillage.net, my diversity-based comedy panel show. Who's Charity of the Week? Yes, could you please say your charity?
We're Ashiana. We're a black minority, ethnic and refugee women's charity, and we work with women fleeing domestic violence, human trafficking, forced marriage, honour-based violence. And we're particularly raising money at the moment. We've got refuge spaces for women with no recourse to public funds. So women fleeing violence that aren't entitled to traditional refuge support because they're not entitled to benefits because they're subject to immigration control. So we have 2 beds in our refuge in South Yorkshire, and any money anyone can give will pay for that.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
So there will be people standing at the doors. So could you please put money in? And if you are at home, ashianasheffield.org.
You ready?
At first I was afraid, I was petrified, was thinking I could never live without you by my side. Then I spent so many nights thinking how you did me wrong, and I grew strong. I learned how to get along, and now you're back from outer space. I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. Should've changed that stupid lock, should've made you leave the key. Had I known for just 1 second you'll be back to bother me. Go on now, walk out the door. Just turn around now, you're not welcome anymore. anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to break me with goodbye? Think I crumble? You think I lay down and die? Oh no, not I will survive. Just as long as I know how to love, I know I'll stay alive. I've got all my life to live, got all my love to give. I will survive, I will survive. Oh, trying not to mend those pieces of my broken heart. And I spend oh so many nights just feeling sorry for myself. I used to cry, but now I hold my head up high and you see me, somebody new. I'm not the chained up little person still in love with you. So you felt like dropping in and just expect me to be free. I know I'm saving all my loving for someone who's loving me. Go on now, go, walk out the door. Just turn around now, you're not welcome anymore. Weren't you the one who tried to break me with goodbye? You think I crumble? You think I lay down and die? I will survive. Just as long as I know how to love, I know I'll stay alive. I've got all my life to live, got all my love to give. I will survive, I will survive. Oh,
have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, guest co-host Bisha K Ali, and our very special guests, Sarah Bradnam, Stephanie Martin and Imogen Roberts. The recording engineer was Chris Sharp, music was by Mark Hodge and Maria Mercedes Lindenskau. The producer was Tom Salinsky for The Spontaneity Shop. Thanks to Zoe, Sally and everyone at King's Place and the London Podcast Festival, as well as all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com.
Okay, just give me a cheer if you're hoping that Megan writes in and says, "Oh my God, Alex, I'd love to meet you in Brooklyn for a coffee." See, they want the romantic ending. It's not my fault. We are wired to want the romantic ending. Have we watched too many romantic comedies? Almost certainly. Is that our fault? A little bit. Because we watched them and nobody did that Clockwork Orange things and held our eyes open to them. But...
No, we had to work in the world and then we learned it was fine. Yeah. I made it dark.
Hi, I'm Sophie Hagen. You may know me from such things as co-hosting episode 1 to 29 of The Guilty Feminist. I'm just here to let you know that I'm on tour of the UK and Denmark with my brand new stand-up show Dead Baby Frog, which is about emotional abuse. My whole tour is anxiety safe, it has gender-neutral toilets and disabled access all around. Go to sophiehagen.com to find out what I mean by that, to find out where I'll be and to get tickets. And whilst you're there, sign up for my newsletter, and why not listen to my new project, the Made of Human podcast.